Hello everyone and welcome back to Darts with Jack podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and also YouTube. I hope you had a great week, and it's been a great week of darts. We had the World Seniors Championship, we had the Pro Tours, we had the European Tour Qualifiers, and I forgot everything else. I don't know why I had a mind like there, but obviously we had the Premier League, we had the Players' Championships, we have the World Seniors Championship, and I've also got the Euro Tour Qualifiers, as well as looking ahead to next week's Pro Tour. I'm also very sorry for the slightly late upload. I just didn't manage to get it out earlier, but I hope you enjoy the podcast. Please follow if you're on Spotify and share, and if you're on YouTube, obviously subscribe to the channel. Please, let's just get some love on this podcast. It's amazing to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you don't mind following. Right, let's get into my first point of the night, which is going to be the Premier League Night 3 in Glasgow. Right, so in the first quarter-final of the night, we had Rob Cross versus Michael Smith. Michael Smith was averaging kind of low 80s at the start of the game, couldn't really get into the game, had a couple of good checkouts, but Rob Cross was ultimately the better player. We then had Wright versus Van Gerwen. Wright on his doubles was awful. I mean, his scoring Wright was much better, but he averaged 86.69 Wright compared to Van Gerwen's 89, so really awful game. Checkouts. Wright missed 17 darts at double in the 17 legs. In the 8 legs of the game, which is awful. You can't afford to have that. Nathan Aspinall missed double 12 for a 9-darter. We could have had the first 9-darter of the Premier League this year. I can't remember if we had one last year, actually. Humphreys, though, came out of the blocks once Aspinall missed and won 6-3. Aspinall, it happened to him last week and it's happened to him again this week. Price versus Littler was the last semi-final in which Gerwen Price took it 6-5. Littler averaging 97, Price averaging 96.46. I can't remember if it was in this game that Price almost hit the 9-darter or the next game. I'm really sorry. Price missed the double for 9-darter, and actually one of his darts fell out when he had a chance to win the game, and Littler missed double 18 to leave himself double 20, and that meant that Gerwen Price won the game. On to the semi-finals, which in this case they were Rob Cross versus Michael Van Gerwen and Luke Humphreys versus Gerwen Price. It was Van Gerwen who took the first game against Rob Cross. A good game. It was a good game, there's no doubt about it, but ultimately Van Gerwen was much better in the end. And he took that game, and Luke Humphreys beat Gerwen Price 6-3 in a game where Humphreys was pretty much dominant. In the final, it went down to the last leg decider, and Humphreys left himself on 147, with Michael taking out 56 in 2 darts, and that ultimately gave it to Michael Van Gerwen. So it was 2 nightly wins in a row for Michael Van Gerwen. I'm sorry I haven't gone into much detail about the Premier League. I've got other stuff, including the Pro Tours and the Euro Tour Qualifiers, that I do want to focus on. So yes, let's get on to that. If you do want to see more in depth about the Premier League, just leave us a comment, tweet me on Twitter or X, whatever they call it, and I can take your feedback into consideration. Right, and on to the Pro Tour 1, which was held in Wigan. I'm going to go through, and the way I think I'm going to do it is by going through the quarterfinals, the semi-finals and the final, kind of like the Premier League format, and then going to any talking points from the day. So your quarterfinalists were Brendan Dolan, Jean Van Veen, Luke Littler, Hurrell, Searle, De Souza, Suter and Kenny. And it was Van Veen who beat Dolan 6-5, Littler who beat Hurrell 6-3, Searle who beat De Souza 6-2, and Suter who beat Kenny 6-5. In the semi-finals, Littler came out on top in the last leg decider to win 7-6 against Alan Suter, and Ryan Searle won 7-3 against Jean Van Veen. And that led the final to be Littler versus Searle, and Littler came out on top in this one. In the final, Luke Littler averaged around about... I don't have my Dart Connect up. I will just get my Dart Connect up for you just so I can see where Luke Littler averaged. So now while I'm getting this up, I'm just going to talk about the main talking point of the day, which has to be going price is Storm. On the first day of the Players' Championship, he called them amateur conditions, as he said it was absolutely awful, apparently. And yeah, he just said it was awful, and so he left, said it was freezing cold, and so that led him to pull out of the day and the day after that as well. And so the next day, everyone was taking the absolute mickey and just saying the conditions were well too hot. Right, the Players' Championship final, I forgot about this. Littler averaged 109.64, Searle averaged 111.73 and lost. I don't know where it is in the official stats, but that just has to be one of the highest averages to lose a Players' Championship. Littler took the first day. Now, as we look at Players' Championship 2, obviously there was no going price in this one. And in Players' Championship 2, it was Gary Anderson who came out on top. He was unbeatable. He almost hit a 9-darter, I think, a couple of times. And let me see, why have I not got my Players' Championships 2 stats? Okay, here we go. So it does look like, let me see if I can just go further down into the... Right, here we go. So, in the quarterfinals, Peter Wright beat Robert Owen 6-2. Gary Anderson beat Raymond van Barneveld 6-3. We then had Martin Lukeman versus Callum Ridd. Lukeman came out on top 6-2. And Searle versus Zonneveld, and he won 6-4. The semi-finals, Searle beat Lukeman in a last-leg decider 7-6. And in the other semi-final, Anderson beat Peter Wright 7-5. And it was really good to see Peter Wright on form. In the final, Searle, in his second final of the 2 Players' Championships, lost, unfortunately, but it does show that all his new Harrow stuff is absolutely working. Gary Anderson almost won the game with a 9-darter, sadly didn't. Now, the main talking point I had was in Players' Championship 1, where there was I think there was 3 9-darters in the day, and they came from Leighton Bennett, they came from Mickey Mansell and Luke Littler. Leighton Bennett held the record, obviously, when he hit it for the first big 9-darter, and he became the youngest person to hit a 9-darter in the Players' Championship. He held that record for approximately 53 minutes, where eventually it was won by... it was eventually beaten, the record by Luke Littler. Who else? Right, let's talk about the Euro Tour qualifiers. Right, so in the Euro Tour qualifier 1, it was taken by Mike De Decker, Luke Woodhouse, Lucas Wienig, Jermaine Watermena, James Hurrell, Richard Veenstra, Daniel Closer, Luke Littler, Barry Van Peer and Chris Landman, meaning that Littler will make his European Tour debut. It was a really strong Tour holder qualifier 1. And in Euro Tour qualifier 2, Mike De Decker, Alan Suter, Steve Lennon, Jeffrey Deswan, Niels Zonneveld, Lucas Wernig, Richard Veenstra, Kevin Dutz, Jermaine Watermena and Cameron Menzies, which means they are the players who will be featuring in the first 2 Euro Tours of the year. Right, looking ahead to next week's Pro Tours, I would really like Joe Cullen to win one. I'm just going to say that until he does. I love Joe Cullen. He actually liked my tweet for the first time on Monday or Tuesday, and it made me very happy, and I really hope he does go on to win one. Maybe not next week. I'd love him to win one next week, but just whenever he can. And also we have the World Seniors Darts Championship, which has been going on as we speak. And in that, if I'll just get it up now. So currently, as I record this podcast, we're about to start the evening session of day 2. So the latest scores, I'll just go through last night's scores. Mitchell beat Clark 3-1 in sets. Long beat Cameron 3-1. Henderson beat Gulliver 3-1. Hogan beat Jenkins 3-1. Ashton beat Huntley 3-2. Duff beat Rowlands 3-2. Dubbridge beat Durrant 3-2 in a very unlucky loss for Glenn Durrant. And Painter beat McEwen 3-2 in an amazing comeback. And in the afternoon session of Friday, Adams beat Hedman 3-2, Thornton beat Turner 3-1, Burnett beat Della 3-1, and Tony O'Shea had to pull out due to medical advice on his throwing arm, which means that Andy Hamilton has got a bye. Tonight's games are Lennon Gates, McGarry, Fitton Mason, Phil Taylor, Bill Dill, sorry if I pronounced that surname wrong, and Howson Part. Right, that is it for today's podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know it's been a bit of information heavy, but if there's any darts news or anything you really want to see in the podcast, please just tweet me on Twitter, comment on the Spotify section, comment on my YouTube video if you can. I think comments may be turned off, but I'll put a community tab for you there. So thank you for listening. Please follow and subscribe, etc. And I'll see you all in next week's podcast. This has been Darts with Jack, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.